One thing that I guess I really admired as part of your journey throughout The Apprentice was the fact that you never hid your Bengali identity. I'm Bengali myself, and I felt like growing up we were sometimes encouraged to not showcase our Bengali-ness, right? Our Bengali identity. But you showcased it throughout from beginning to end, and especially at the end, you know, when you were in front of these top business execs and you came in wearing, you know, a lenga, you had zal on it, which is a Bengali word as well, behind you, like, is it finally cool to actually be Bengali now? Are we in the era of being proud to be Bengali?
I think we should always be proud to be Bengali. But yeah, you know, I am very proud to be Bangladeshi. I'm very proud of my heritage. And I feel like it's a big part of me. Whether I want it to be or not, it will always be a big part of me. So there's no point hiding it, right? And I feel like that's what also makes us all unique. Like, me being Bangladeshi is a unique, obviously there's loads of Bangladeshis in the UK, but it's unique to me, and that's what I can bring to business as well. So with Bombay Pizza, it is a fusion. Of course, I say it's like Indian-Italian fusion, but we all know Bengalis run the Indian food scene in the UK. So like, even the fact that like 99% of all Indian restaurants are run by Bangladeshis, like, I know that's what makes me special in a way, and that's what makes my business special and the pizza special. So of course it's important to hone into that. Was there never a part of you that was sort of scared? Like, it always felt like when we were watching you on screen that you were very confident about your identity, but a lot of people don't have that experience where they are a little bit scared and they try and fit in and try and be as even more Western than their English colleagues because they're trying to sort of make up the fact that they're Bengali and not a white British. Yeah, I think for me I knew confidence is important for the process, and I'm confident in who I am, and I never try to hide it. Even outside of the show, I don't hide that I'm Bengali. You know, I love Bengali food, I love dressing in Bengali clothes, I love all of it. And for me in the process, it's just important to have self-confidence no matter what, because it's a grueling process. You know, we're competing against each other. There are 17 other candidates. We're all trying to put each other under the bus. You know, there's a task every week. You're getting scrutinized by Lord Sugar, Brandon Brady and Tim. That process is very, very tough. So unless I was confident, unless I was true to who I am, I wouldn't have gone as far as I did.
You actually lost a lot of tasks, and I think you lost the most amount of tasks, yet you ended up in the final. So that takes a lot of resilience there.
Yeah.
You know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I had to show a lot of resilience to get through. I'm being honest, before I started the show, my goal was to win every task. And then the first week, I became project manager, and then my team lost. So I was like, oh, well, that's over. But I think I was really happy that it didn't matter if the team lost, because every task I gave it my best, and I made sure that I was doing what I could do. Like, I went for PM the first 2 tasks. Even when I wasn't PM, I was always an active role. There was not a single task where you could say, what was Anisa doing, you know? And I think I take pride in that, and that was sort of my strategy as well, is that it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so why would I not give it my best every single task? And I think that's what, you know, Baron Brady and Lord Sugar and Tim, they respected that, because I never once tried to hide. And I think it's very easy, especially when there's 18 people, and to hide, because you can always blame someone else, or you can always say, oh, they did that. But because from beginning to end, I gave it my best, they noticed me straight away. And I think Brandon Brady was right. Like, I started how I meant to go on. You know, I was PM straight away, the first 2 tasks. And throughout, I never hid. I
remember watching the first episode, and I remember being so annoyed that you chose to be PM, because in that first episode, 9 times out of 10, whoever loses the first episode is the PM that usually ends up getting fired. So I remember thinking, oh, she's become PM. And then when you lost, I was like, yeah, that's it, she's gonna get fired. The Bengali one's gonna get fired in the first week. I knew it. And then you didn't, and you persevered, and you continued to show that resilience. I wanna ask you whether you are like that in the workplace, because I think, you know, sometimes when we see, particularly I guess for women, but especially I guess for ethnic minority women, when they're loud, when they're passionate, when they take on leadership roles, they can often be labelled in a negative way, right? They can be labelled as bossy and whatever. So was that ever your experience when you were, you know, in the corporate world, when you were thriving in the corporate world?
It's something I learned with my time in corporate, that if you want to get far in life, you have to have your voice heard. You have to put yourself out there, you know, in terms of, you know, the corporate world is hard. It's a little like a fighting ladder in a way. And the ones who get promoted are the ones who are outspoken. So it's something I naturally had to learn, because I think in terms of who I am in my personal life, I am someone who's very friendly and nice, and I'm very like laugh, like I laugh a lot, that kind of stuff. But when it comes down to business, it's important, to get that respect, to be serious. And that's how I went on with The Apprentice as well, where I, off camera, I was very nice to all I'm a nice person to them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to business, you have to kind of have that persona of being strong. And I think if you do it without being too bossy, that's something they respect.
Now, we can't finish today's show without talking about your dad, who I absolutely love him. He's behind the cameras watching, filming absolutely everything, typical Asian dad. But even more so because he seems so supportive. Today he came in, he was telling us all about Bombay Pizza. On the You're Hired segment, he pretty much had his own segment on the You're Fired show where he was talking about how amazing Bombay Pizza was. Tell me about the role that your dad and your family have played in your success so far.
A big reason why I'm so hardworking now is because growing up, I saw my dad always working hard. My dad was working like 15-hour days like normal. And to me, that was normal because he obviously is my role model growing up. And he's been really supportive the last year or so, especially because we're on TV and because I was able to get the pizza out there. So, my dad's been amazing. He really loves the pizza, and
I mean, you can tell he absolutely loves it. Any ethnic minority child who's got a parent who went to work knows how hard our parents especially worked. How much did that inspire you, to go on and try entrepreneurship? Because it's a scary thing to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it is. I think the reason why we can all relate is that our parents had to work so hard to get to where they are. It was a completely different environment back then. They didn't have the education, or they didn't have the best English for them to get any job they wanted. A lot of our parents were sort of forced to have a business in some way to make money for the children. And I think with my generation, I think some of us take it for granted in a way because we've had the UK education, we can do whatever we want, and then we kind of just choose a cozier way, which is, fair enough. But I think the reason why I chose entrepreneurship was I could have stayed in corporate, but wherever I did in corporate, I was always working for someone else. I was always making money for someone else in the end of the day. Whereas if you have your own business, you have the flexibility, plus all the hard work, you reap what you sow. And that's what made me choose entrepreneurship over staying in corporate. And, it's been extremely difficult. It's not for everyone to have their own business. But my thinking is I'm young. I don't have any kids right now. Might as well just put my all into it and see how much I can grow my business out. And that, inshallah, will allow me to have a future where I can, spend more time with my family, or I can do more things and give them that freedom. And that's why I'm working so hard right now to achieve my goals. Was
there any point where things got really difficult with your business? Because I always find that quite interesting when speaking to entrepreneurs, because there is usually a point in time where things get really bad, or you start thinking maybe I should just go back. Because even though the corporate world you're working for someone else, it's a lot safer. Yeah, I would say honestly, the whole thing has been hard. I think the beginning was actually somewhat easier because I just did it. I didn't actually have a business plan. I just started off, had my pizza, then had a different pizza, and then Bombay Pizza sort of naturally came about it. I think the hardest part before The Apprentice was when I was working corporate and I was doing pizza at the same time, because that time I was doing 70-hour weeks because I was waking up early, doing my corporate job, taking my laptop into my pizza place, continuing the corporate stuff whilst making pizzas and getting it out there. So that was definitely a challenging time because it didn't make sense for me to leave corporate if I wasn't making money with the pizza. But in order to have your business be profitable enough that you don't need another job, it's really hard, to get it there. And even now, the last month, it's been one of the best months of my life, but also one of the worst, because obviously I care a lot about the business, I care a lot about the customers, and we've had so much demand that we couldn't meet it. And as a business person, when you can't meet the demand, it's very frustrating. And it's so difficult to get the staff in, to get the people in. I don't want to disappoint my customers. So the last month has been insane. Alan Sugar did say that, to stay in touch, potentially investing in the future. Has he picked up the phone yet? Have you heard from him? Is some investment coming, or what's the plan? I'm leaving it open for now, but I said, alhamdulillah, the last month has been good. Yeah. Now he's sort of regretting. He's like, man, I should have put in some money.
We've made decent enough money where I can now invest that into my next place. Wow. So I'm having conversations right now for my second location. I'm having conversations with potentially having quite a few dark kitchens coming out this year.
Wow.
So alhamdulillah, it's going well. Yeah. And I'm just kind of, I'm not trying to do anything too quick. I'm gonna make the correct move, but obviously try to capitalize on the show. But yeah, I still have Lord Sugar's number. I have his email. I know his team. I was speaking to them quite regularly before.
Okay.
So I think if I need advice, I'm more than happy to take a message, Lord Sugar.